everyone, and welcome back to the SportsIntel.com podcast. Happy Tuesday to everyone. It is Jeff Goldberg back from vacation, along with Vic Choxy and Eric Gibbs. And before we get started on all the hot topics, we're going to talk a little college football, some NBA, some MLB. But I think we have to start. We have to look back. And for those of you that live in the Chicago area, if you were wondering what that sound was about 8 o'clock or so Sunday night, that scream that bounced off the Sears Tower, that was our man Vic. Because Vic, if you are a faithful reader at SportsIntel.com, you know that Vic picked Colin Morikawa to win the PGA Championship. And when that tee shot on 16 landed in eagle territory on the green, it was all Vic all the time. So Vic, congratulations!
Thank you,
tremendous job.
Thank you. That's the third winner this year so far since the restart. So I hope people are following on SportsIntel.com. But thanks, man. Yes, you were right. I was at my in-laws and I went crazy. I think I scared them. And hopefully they're not scarred, but the kid is amazing, and I'm just, that was a nice little payday, 34-1, which is money in the bank.
Right. Folks, Eric, you like money, right?
Love money.
Love money. I think everyone out there likes money. If you like money, then I suggest you get on sportsintel.com, usually about middle of the day on Wednesday, and you open the PGA picks story that Vic writes for us every week, and you read what Vic has to say, and you put your money down, and then on Sunday night, you profit. Because Vic is a prophet when it comes to the PGA and the NFL and the NBA. And we got him here at Sports Intel, and he's there for you, the reader. So don't forget, we know we love Vic for football, but he's got the golf thing down. So we'll see what he comes up with this week. Always an interesting week after a major. But, of course, everything this year is so up and down that, we'll have to see how it all shakes out. But Vic is on a little bit of a heater here. So be sure to listen in. Vic, I got to ask you a question, and Eric, too. I don't know how big you guys are in your golf history. I was trying to think, has there ever been, or in your minds, in your memories, can anyone ever remember a tee shot that will live in the annals of golf history the way that shot on 16 by Morikawa did? I was just trying to think of a tee shot that wasn't a par 3 that is going to be more famous than that shot. I mean, that was how incredible that was. Even on a par 3, the only thing I can think of that even comes close was Jack Nicklaus on 16 at the Masters in 1986 when he almost put it in the hole. And the famous, everyone remembers the yes sir on the putt on 17, but there was Jim Nantz, a young Jim Nantz on 16. The bear has come out of hibernation with that tee shot. But I think that shot on 16 on Sunday, that might go down as the greatest golf shot of all time.
That's definitely the best tee shot I've ever seen. I've only gotten into golf, I will say, because of Tiger Woods, and it was around 2000. 2010 is literally when I got into golf, so about 10 years ago. So since I've been watching, that is the best tee shot I've ever seen, and one of the best golf shots I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was really amazing, and that people, if you were watching the PGA most of the weekend, I mean that was the hole, that was the eagle hole, and it was always interesting, and they were talking about a lot like guys that they were always amazed when guys were not trying to reach the green off the tee on that hole, and here comes Morikawa, who we've seen already this year. He's 23 years old too, which is just amazing. 23 years old. And he went for it. There was no doubt he was going for it. And it was just one of those, sit up in your seat and take notice kind of moments. It was amazing. And and again, if you had Morikawa, I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, you just knew. I mean, it was over. And so that was great. It was a great weekend for first major of the year. It definitely lived up to the hype. And we'll have to see how that goes going forward. But meanwhile, if that was the highlight, then certainly the low light was what's going on behind the scenes in college football. Eric, what is the latest as far as you know? But it doesn't look good. It looks like the Big Ten is pretty much out, and once that domino falls, right? I mean, that's going to be the end of it.
Well, the dominoes started to fall with Ivy League, and then MAC and UConn stepped out. Big Ten is teetering on the edge. There's supposed to be an announcement today or tomorrow. Before they were saying it would definitely be something today. Now they're saying it might be tomorrow. ACC still wants to move forward. They're still adamant that something's going to happen this year. There's a lot in the air right now. I don't believe if we lose all of the other divisions that the ACC, one of the few holdouts, will be able to move forward. There just won't be enough meat left on the bone to make it a worthwhile season. And at this point, it really comes down to weighing the odds. I know the players want to play. That's more than obvious. They've stated it into the blue in the face. But we've seen so many cases of COVID literally jumping from one individual to the next in a matter of seconds. And there's still not enough information on what's going on with the virus. The latest is that it can have long-term problem. It can cause long-term problems for the heart, for the lungs. And if you're an 18-year-old looking to make it in the NFL in a couple of years, the last thing you need is to end up with a permanent problem with your heart or your lungs. Exactly. Yeah, 18-year-olds, we know it. We've all been there. They know everything. They're gods. They're invincible. But in reality, obviously they don't all have the wherewithal, right, to make those difficult calls. Yeah. And if it comes down to it, and we're going to be able to save thousands of football players that we'll be able to see 10 years from now still in the NFL, then it's going to be the right call. It's going to have to be the year is put off.
Yeah, I can certainly say as a Red Sox fan, I mean, all anyone has to do is look at what happened to Eduardo Rodriguez. I mean, he had it, and he survived the virus, but he has heart issues now, and his career could be over. Here's a young pitcher. He was going to be the number one on that staff, and now there's real concern that he may never be able to pitch again because of a COVID not because of the virus itself, but because of the damage it's done to his heart. I would encourage anyone that's confused about this issue, take a look at what happened to Eduardo Rodriguez of the Red Sox, and you'll understand that it's more than just we don't want to die of the disease, or young people don't die from this, but they have things that happen to them that, as Eric just said, I mean, if you're trying to become a professional athlete, this is a serious thing. My question, Eric, is I wonder why we're not seeing these conferences put more of a outward spin, for lack of a better term, on the idea of, hey, we're going to play, but we're going to play in the spring instead of in the fall. And I know they're talking about that. I think there's a certain sense that they're not canceling the seasons per se, but that they're just going to try to pause it and wait and maybe play in the spring. So you would still get your football, but you just won't get it like when the leaves are turning color. And is that a distinction without a difference, or
it all comes down to one central point that is found in all sports everywhere. One key word, money.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Why do they split up the sports the way they do? It's not just because football plays better when the leaves are falling to the ground.
Right.
You know, they're not contending with the men's NCAA run, right? They're not contending with March Madness. You push off football to the spring, and all of a sudden, you've got football and basketball and some baseball running at the same time. It makes things a little bit more difficult. It's not the only reason, of course, but let's be honest. When it comes down to it, the NCAA is a money-making machine just like every other sports league. They're going to look at it from a financial point of view. And if moving the sports, all the sports to the spring can impact the bottom line, it's not going to make a good business move, right?
Right.
And we also have to consider, we don't know what's going to happen as this year turns to the end and as 2021 rolls around with the virus. We don't know where we're going to be. If they say, okay, we're just going to postpone it and move forward, making plans and preparations and everything to hold football in the spring, and all of a sudden we can't hold it in the spring because, once again, coronavirus is out of control, they've just, again, lost all of that money and the resources that they put into rescheduling everything.
Right.
So it just comes down to, there are still way too many questions that have to be answered. Obviously, you know, I want there to be football. There probably will be professional football, hopefully. But you have to think about the long-term ramifications of putting all of those students, and that's what they are at the end of the day. They're still students, okay?
Yeah.
In the eyes of society, really. Putting them at risk and possibly ruining any chance they have at succeeding in any major league, whether it be baseball, football, soccer, just by allowing them to run a couple of months on the field. It's not worth it.
Yeah. You know, it'll be interesting, too, to see if coming out of all of this, whether they play or whether they don't play. I think, you know, a lot of us saw the post that Trevor Lawrence put up. I guess it was yesterday or maybe even over the weekend. You know, pretty much saying, why, you know, we need to unionize. You know, we need to, you know, put together some sort of almost like a players' union. And it's been talked about, you know, about, you know, paying college players and having a players' union. And I wonder if the momentum for that now is going to really increase, you know, where the players are going to want to have a real say. And, you know, because, you know, these Power 5 conferences say, you know, we're going to play. And like, you know, what's the opt-out recourse for a college student as opposed to a professional player? And, you know, are we lurching forward toward, you know, where college players are going to get paid and they're going to have like a players union? I mean, is that going to be an outcome of this? Eric, do you think that's something that could wind up happening here?
I think it's possible. I don't think it could happen. Certainly not quickly. It would take several years for everything to come together. Obviously, you know, when you look at how states are already working on legislation to allow players to be paid for their likeness, right? Bill going on right now. And the NCAA just lost a court case where they tried to prevent anything related to NIL moving forward. There's a definite push. There's definitely a paradigm shift going on with college sports. At the end of the day, though, those athletes have to recognize that if they go that route and they sign on that dotted line, they're accepting every single risk, not just the reward.
Right.
If they end up getting sick, they end up getting to the point where they can no longer play football, there's no repercussions. They've accepted both the benefits and the liabilities of taking that huge step. Is it possible? Most definitely. Is it likely to happen? I'd say right now it's about 50-50.
Vic, what's your thought now? I feel like there's like almost like an angel and a devil on the shoulder kind of situation happening right now. We have college football, which maybe by the end of the week is going to be shut down completely. That all the Power Fives are going to say you can't do it, and so college football is over. But then on the other side, we have now seen in the NBA and the NHL, they're making it happen. I mean, they have no positive tests, and the games are going, and the playoffs are starting this weekend. Actually, for the NHL, they start today, and in the NBA, it'll be beginning of next week. And they're making their leagues happen. Their bubbles are working out great. So if you're the NFL, what side of the coin are you on right now? Are you like down in the dumps because of what's happening in college football, or are you thinking, hey, if the NBA and NHL can make it happen, we can make it happen too. Even Major League Baseball, for all its problems with what's happening in St. Louis, what happened with the Marlins, and now what's going on with the Cardinals, they are still playing. I mean, the games are happening every day, and as we saw this weekend, it's like old-time baseball, fights and everything, and so, I mean, how are we feeling about the NFL right now? Are we feeling like, where's your glass, half empty or half full?
Oh man, that's a good question. First, I want to just say it's ridiculous to me that the people in college football, the leadership, literally wasted 4 to 5 months. I feel like, right? They should have been using their time, their money, their resources to come up with a plan like the NBA, the NHL, or just a plan in general. We're hearing about they're just finally talking about spring football. They're finally talking about pods and bubbles. And I mean, what have you been doing the last 4 months? And then people wonder why football's where it's at right now. So with the NFL, man, I think it comes back to what Eric said, right? It's all about money. I think they're just too big to be stopped. They're going to go on no matter what. I would love if they had some kind of plan with like, pods in different regions. To me, that makes a lot of sense. Like if you're in the NFC North, everyone picks a state for that month and kind of they have the money, they have the resources, right? It's just I think it's too late in the game now, man. I mean, the NBA worked on stuff for a couple of months down to the final detail before making it happen. We're literally 5 weeks away from season. And I just don't see how they can now put all of that together with the amount of people and the scheduling, the TV rights, everything involved, the stakeholders involved. So I think the NFL is too big to fail and to stop, and I see them just rolling on with how things are going to be, and kind of like the MLB. To your point, there's going to be cases, there's going to be things that occur, but they're just going to keep it rolling. And that's how I see it kind of playing out. What about you? What do you guys think?
Eric, go ahead. I just feel like the more I watch the NBA, part of me wants to think that the NFL has been watching the NBA, and maybe they're going to try to like put together, even if they want to, would it kill anyone? I hate to use the word kill, but would it bother anyone if the NFL pushed everything back, say to start in October instead of September, and then they took like Vic just said, they took that month of September as well as and maybe they've already started now, and then they to put together a bubble plan. Now that they've seen that the bubble really does work, the NBA, this NBA model, I don't know if it possibly could have gone any better than what the NBA has done here. And you could do it in football, like Vic said, you could have like regional pods, and I know it's a lot more. There's far more players involved than in basketball, and there's a lot of logistic issues and scheduling and all kinds of things like that. But I would, even if they said, hey, we're going to take an extra month to really put it together, and we'll start the NFL season beginning of October, I think we would all sign off on that, right? If they were able to figure out a way to do it where they knew when they started in week 1 that they could make it all the way to week 17. Eric, I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you feel like a bubble scenario can work for the NFL?
I don't think it's just a question of whether or not it can work. I think it's the only solution. Yeah. And as we've said, and I can only reiterate, The NFL should have been on this 4 months ago. I mean, this is not something you try to dish out less than a month before you want to get the regular season underway. Players are nowhere near prepped to the levels they would normally be to start games on September 10th. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Right.
And the league has had more than enough time to get everything in order. If they do have a contingency plan, then they should have shared it with the world. I mean, this is not a military secret. You know, the fans are driving the league. They always have been. And you've got to take care of those that take care of your bottom line. The bubbles would have been the best solution. The NBA bubble, before it came out, everyone was bad mouthing it. Everyone was trashing it. The bubble's not going to work. There aren't going to be any fans. It's going to suck. Basketball, and look at everything that's going on now in social media and in the press. People are loving it.
Right.
They can't get enough of it. Look at the numbers. Look at the games that are being watched on TV. You know, people are all over basketball. They're all over even baseball, right?
Yeah.
Not so much in the bubble, but there are no fans in the stand. So the plan works. The bubble works. NHL, the numbers are there, right? And they're in a complete bubble.
Right.
It should not have taken this long for the NFL to have come up with a solution. As soon as the NBA announced their bubble plan, the NFL could have easily put together a plan. At that point, that's all it would have been, was a plan. What if? What if the virus is still here in September? You know, and share it with the world, right? And we'd all be in a much better position now to know what's going to happen. Fans would be happier. Players would be happier. You still get today a lot of complaints from the players who are saying that the league still does not have a thorough health plan in place to test and for the coronavirus and prevent it from spreading. There have also been a lot of complaints about the masks that have been invented. Players are not able to breathe well through the masks.
Right.
That's something that has not been able to be tested the way it should have been because we didn't have any preseason, right? And now they expect the league to start regular season with just limited full pad practices and think everything's going to magically work. And at this point, it's not. For everyone involved, it would make more sense to put it off to October. Is it going to happen? Probably not.
Right.
At this point, the NFL needs to start working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, pulling in everyone they can to put together a real strategic, well thought out plan to get the league to run smoothly, the season to run smoothly, or halfway through, they're going to be binding their pants down around their ankles, wondering what went wrong.
Right. And you know what? And we can all talk about what they should have done. And I think we're all right to say, hey, why weren't they prepared? And boy, it's just like in a lot of ways, I mean, without getting too political about it, it's like the situation in the country in general. But I think, let's put it this way, I think the NFL would be better off. You know what, honestly, they should just say, look, every other sport did not start on time, right? You know, the NBA didn't start until July, and baseball didn't start until July. Hockey, same thing. So, we're not going to start on time. That's just how it is. And they should just say, look, we're going to now, and like I said, I hope behind the scenes it's already happening. And they're just not publicly talking about it because they just don't seem to want to admit that it's like same thing with college football. I mean, is it that they just don't want to admit it? Are they in denial? We know they're not going to be able to play. But it's like they just don't want to come out and have to cut the cord and say we're not going to play. And and I think the NFL, they should at this point be like, we gotta, if we're even going to try to have a season, we're better off just not starting until we're ready. And if that means opening weekend is Thanksgiving weekend, and the season's going to go into March, with every other sport schedule all messed up because of this, what difference would it make? They would be better off getting their ducks in a row and getting a bubble plan together, however, whether it's with pods, and just say we're gonna make sure that when we do start, we're not gonna stop. We're not gonna have something happen where we're gonna stop. If that means we don't start until much later than what people are expecting, that's the way. That's the norm. Is we don't start on time. The other sports didn't start on time, so why hold ourselves to that standard if it's not going to work? Because I agree with you guys. If the NFL thinks they're going to roll out games on September 10th or whatever that Sunday is, and then they're going to still be playing a month after that, I mean, baseball is, they're hanging on, but they're like right on the edge, and that's a whole different sport than what football is trying to do. And I just think football would just be better off saying we're not ready. Sorry, we're sorry. We thought we were ready. We're not, and we want to make sure we're going to be ready. So we're gonna keep working at it, and we'll see you guys in November. But then when we get there, November, December, January, February, you're going to get your football. But I don't know. I think they're, I don't know if it's just, these owners, I sometimes wonder, like, how tethered to reality they are. And they just understand what they're dealing with. I'm not sure that they do. But anyway, let's move back to actual sports on the field. And I want to just make a point. And my point is this. I told all you people before the season started that the San Diego Padres were going to be for real. And which team leads the major leagues in home runs on this Tuesday morning, August 11th? That would be the San Diego Padres.
Pods look good. You did call it. I did tell you that. I did tell you that the Pods would be loaded and playing well, coming out early, and they are doing well. Have you saw that? They're leading the NL Central with 10 wins.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, you know what? You could focus on the problems if you want to, but baseball's been pretty entertaining. And I will also say this, and we were just talking about this with the NBA. Not only are the NBA playing, I'm sure you guys have been watching. These games have been fantastic. Like, there have been the scoring is way up, and it's like I have found the NBA to be incredibly entertaining. And I'm really looking forward to the playoffs. I think this is going to, Damian Lillard the other day, the whole drama with him over the weekend, having the terrible game on Saturday and then pumping in 50 on Sunday. And, I think it's great. I think the baseball's been pretty good too. And what do you guys, so obviously I'm the Padres, as I said, I'm living here in San Diego, and, they beat the Dodgers last night. It's exciting. They're probably going to be in the playoffs. Everybody's going to be in the playoffs. Vic, what's your sort of 25% of the season's over take on what you're seeing here so far?
Yeah, it's fun to watch. Like you said, I think both baseball and MLB, and NBA have produced some fun games. Maybe just because we're starved for sports, but it's been fun just watching some good old baseball. I've been watching my Cubbies. They've come out hot. David Ross, their manager, they know him well. He's a leader, and so that's why I think they haven't missed a beat. And your Pods have been looking good. The Braves look good, and all of us talked about obviously the Yankees, and they look great too. So the Athletics and the Twins have kind of surprised me a little bit. But that's about it, man. I've just enjoyed watching the games, and it's been cool to kind of see some of the old big teams do well, and now some of these new teams creeping in. Just because it's a shortened season, anything can happen. So I think if we can finish the season and get to the playoffs, this might be one of the wildest playoffs ever for both MLB and NBA.
Yeah. Eric, if I had told you before the season that there would be one huge brawl in the first 20 days and the Astros would be involved, would you believe that the player who got hit 800 times was not an Astros player?
It kind of went, flip side on that one. It was still an interesting development. I don't know if the Astros were looking for revenge for their players getting hit, or if it was just merely a coincidence and, the ball actually did slip, not once, not twice, but 3 times on the same player. But, it was a sure thing that the Astros would have been involved in some major melee this year. The fallout, is a little questionable, but that's a topic for a different day. It's not. I said, when we first started our podcasts, that the Astros were looking good, and at the time they were, but they've certainly fallen off since then. They're not looking to be as sharp as anyone had expected, and they're certainly not going to be in contention for anything other than a Raspberry Award this year.
Yeah, certainly not with the way the A's are playing.
No.
I thought the best thing about that fight. I'm sure people who are on Twitter are familiar with John Boy. He's mostly a Yankees guy. He was the guy that broke down the classic tape from last year with Aaron Boone, and we're savages in the box. So he breaks down he does like lip reading on what's going on, and so he broke down what happened with the fight. And it's on Twitter. You can go find it. It's excellent. And the great thing, the 2 great things was, one, Lariano's going to first. Now, I mean, he's upset. Obviously, he got hit 3 times. He's not happy. But you could see he wasn't like so much yelling at the pitcher as much as he was like kept flicking his wrist, right? And you can tell he was like trying to say to the pitcher, like, put a little snap on that slider, young man. Like, then it won't run in on there and you won't hit me with it. Because it was the same pitcher hit him, I guess it was either the night before or 2 nights before. And he kept hitting him with the slider. He was throwing the slider, and the slider kept running in and hitting him. And he was like, all the way up the first baseline, he's like snapping his hand, like, snap the ball when you release it, and it won't break in. And so I don't think that fight was going to happen until the hitting coach for the Astros, Cintron, decides to be all like tough guy, and apparently said some very unflattering things about Laureano's mom. And then when the fight started, the hitting coach like turtled and like had nothing to do with the fight. And again, it's like, what is it with Major League Baseball and not disciplining the Astros? Like, how does the hitting coach not get thrown out of like suspended for like the rest of the season? They have a rule that in this coronavirus era, no fights. I mean, that was one of the things they said: no spitting, no throwing the ball around the infield, and no fights. And now here was a situation where there was a potential for a fight, and it looked like it was being de-escalated. And here's the hitting coach in the dugout trying to be, I don't know what he's doing, and he starts this brawl that it's like the one thing baseball said you cannot do, and nothing's going to happen to the guy. I mean, I don't know. I just don't understand. With many things that baseball does, I just don't understand why is Alex Cintron going to skate this when he started a brawl in a time where brawls are forbidden. And but anyway, I would tell anyone, go find that on Twitter with John Boy. It was a tremendous breakdown of how this all came about. But yeah, Eric, are the Astros just like the Teflon Don of baseball? They can do whatever they want, and there's no punishment.
Yeah, it certainly has made for an interesting season, an interesting couple of years, the way that no Astros player has had to face the music for anything that's going on. And now with Cintron basically skating off, you really have to start wondering what is going on. Why is the league protecting them? It's hard to say what the reason may be. There certainly seems to be a pattern developing with the Astros skating each time something happens. At some point, it's got to come to a head, though, and the Astros will end up being charged in one way or another for either through karma or through MLB. Who knows? But they will get caught up in some type of punishment.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we know Mike Fiers is the one that got the whole investigation going, and so obviously there's I'm sure there's a considerable amount of bad blood between the A's and the Astros. Now you got the A's running away with the division, and they're going to play each other again. I don't know, but I just watching what happened, and really seeing it broken down what happened on Sunday, and then to realize that Cintron was going to skate this. Boy, that one, that's a real head scratcher. So as we get toward the end of our time here for this week, Vic, I want to bring it back to you because you are the prognosticator. I was able to say it on the second try. Talk to me some NBA. We're getting into the playoffs here. Who do you like? Who's the Colin Morikawa of the NBA as we get into the playoffs here? Who you liking right now?
Man, I've been on the Clippers all year, and I liked them when we talked before the bubble, and I still like them, man. I know that they lost that big game to the Lakers, but think about this: they were missing Montrezl Harrell, Patrick Beverley, and they literally lost on the last second, right? To me, they have the depth, they have the length, they have the defense, they have a coach that's been there, and they have Kawhi Leonard. So I still like the Clippers to take this whole thing, but the bubble atmosphere is going to be crazy, and I think there's going to be a lot more upsets than we're used to seeing, right? And I would love to see if Portland can get in that 8 seed because I think they can give the Lakers some trouble in that first round of the West, and that would definitely be a fun series to see. There'll be some smack talking, some buzzer beaters. I think that series can go the distance. So I like the Clippers, but if you read SportsIntel.com before the bubble, I picked some dark horses to throw some money on. I had the Blazers in there, and they're a dangerous squad. So to me, the Bucks still look like the cream of the crop in the East. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are both injured. Simmons is out for the year. So the Sixers look done. The only other team I think that can come out, like I was telling you, was your Boston Celtics. But again, maybe they're a year away still. But the Bucks look like the cream of the crop. So I'm still going with Clippers Bucks as my NBA Finals.
Yeah, the talk in Boston right now is which team looks worse, the Celtics or the Bruins. They both have not shown up yet. They're both still back in February. I'm going to tell you who's going to win the NBA title. You're totally wrong, golf boy. The Phoenix Suns are going to win the NBA championship because they're never going to lose. They're never going to lose again. I mean, forget it. They're going to win every game, and so yeah, the Phoenix Suns. It's all 8 and all the time. As long as he shows up for his test.
Yeah,
he shows up for his test.
That was crazy, and I don't know, man. The internet's going crazy because Devin Booker was all over Kendall Jenner's social media. So they're saying the Suns might have just gotten the Kardashian curse. So I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on that. It's either they're going to win it all, like you said, or the curse is real. So let's see.
Yeah, that's probably not a good thing. Well, I'll tell you what. Whenever you bring Kendall Jenner into it, that's when it's probably time to say goodbye. So for Eric and for Vic, this is Jeff Goldberg. Hope you enjoyed. I really hope you read Vic's PGA picks on Wednesday. Do yourself a favor. The man knows what he's talking about. And we will see you next week. So everyone enjoy, and we'll talk to you again.